so welcome back to Lex Reads. So in today's video, I wanted to talk about some of my favorite books from the 90s. When I tell you that was a good time for Black literature, especially women's literature, there was a little bit of a renaissance of Black women literature. And throughout the 90s, there were just books on books on books. We also had, books that were adapted into films. I remember listening to an interview with Terry McMillan, the one and only Terry McMillan, and she was talking about how the uprising of Black literature, and especially when her books start to come out, she said one literary agent said that she did not realize that Black women like to read. And if y'all know anything about Terry McMillan, she is slick with the mouth, and you already know she told that woman off, right? I remember when I was watching that interview, I started to research other authors, end up picking up those books and reading them. Also, I found male writers during that time. So in the 90s, Black literature, it was popping. It was really popping. And of course, I wanted to share my favorites with you so far. So before we get started, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. First book that I want to share with you guys is What Looks Like Crazy on an Ordinary Day. This is by Pearl Cleage. She's known for her plays. The book came out in the late 90s, 97 to be exact, and it actually was an Oprah Book Club pick. And you have a woman, the main character, Eva, I believe. No, Ava. And Ava has recently been diagnosed with HIV. And you can imagine, devastated. During that time, when you were diagnosed with HIV/AIDS, it was just like, oh, you're going to die tomorrow, right? Because of this new diagnosis, her life has changed, and she decides to go back to Atlanta to be with her older sister. Just see her try to, basically take charge of her life, try to live normal as possible. And of course, in the 80s and 90s, AIDS and HIV was a huge topic, and a lot of people were ignorant about the diagnosis, but at the same time, I tell myself, well, it was new. So a lot of people were scared. But she talks about the stigma. She talks about the taboo. She talks about just how people are unaware of the diagnosis. And then also, I love about this book, really getting the mindset of Ava and how she truly feels about, her diagnosis. And also the people around her, get what they feel about it. I did read a book in one day. I'll put that down below. Of course, no spoilers of me reading this book. I read some passages, and I thoroughly enjoyed this book so much. Now, there is you could say a sequel to this book. It is about Ava's older sister, Joyce. It's called I Wish I Had a Red Dress. I have not read that, but I do own it. That book, she has recently adopted a child. She's been out of the dating game for a while. I believe she's a widow. And yeah, you see how she's trying to navigate that. Next is Connie Briscoe, Sisters and Lovers. Now, if you like Terry McMillan books, you probably like this. It gives you a waiting to excel, hustle got her grooves back type of mentality. Connie Briscoe herself says, if it wasn't for Terry McMillan, her name wouldn't have been out there. This book would have not been popular. So she paved the way for her and a lot of other, Black women authors during that time. This is three sisters. They're all different, all different ways, all different walks of life. You have one sister. She is married, well established, has children, but the marriage is horrible. You have another sister where she's trying to make ends meet, and her husband is horrible. He can't keep no job, and it's a lot. And then you have the younger sister. She is recently single. She's been in a relationship, and it just doesn't go really well. So she's, trying to get back in the game, trying to date. If you like sister dynamic books, you probably would like this book. I like books like that because I feel like obviously you're getting three different perspectives, but it's almost like you're getting three different stories in one. And when you add, Black women in the mix, it's just a win-win. Next is Virginia D. Berry and Donna Grant, Trying to Sleep in the Bed You Made. Now, these are co-authors. And when I tell you their books are amazing, I have to shout out my sister. She likes to read her books on audio, right? And I had heard of these authors and actually had their book Better Than I Know Myself, right? But I never read it. It was telling me about, these authors and how she like read everything. And I remember I actually have a read a book in one day of me reading not this book, but of Better Than I Know Myself. And y'all, these authors, amazing. they can tell a story, and the fact that there's two authors writing, one story, it's so seamless. Trying to sip in a bet you made. It is two friends. They've known each other since they were children, and there is a tragic event that happens when they are children, and only they know about it, and the other person that was involved, the young man. And you see their lives from then, and then you see their lives when they grow up and, get older and get jobs and all of that. Oh, this was so good, y'all. Next is Brothers and Sisters by B.B. Moore Campbell. Two women. One is white and one is black. They work in corporate America. And you see how the two women, how they move through the world. With the white, woman's character, she just so unaware of, some of the little things that we as black women, we as a black people, kind of deal with some of those nuances. But at the same time, like she, told her, well, why would I be aware of that when it doesn't even come to my doorstep, basically? You know what I mean? So why would I be aware of, I walk into a store and they don't greet everyone, or me being followed through the store? It's little things that black people notice. But then you have a black man that he likes the black woman, but then he also likes the white woman. And it's a whole situation in that. This is a conversational piece. This was one of our book club picks, I want to say last year, year before, and we had a really good discussion. And another thing that kind of got me is this book was written in the 90's, and a lot of things that happen in corporate America, in the workforce, in the workplace, it's not different from today. It's kind of sad when you think about it, but it's just the reality of the situation. And that, that mentality of, oh, you have to work twice as hard if you're black. I don't subscribe to that. My thing is, you hired me to do the job. I'm going to do the job right, but I'm not going to break my neck. Okay. I'm going to do it right. I'm not going to be the last one leaving the building. I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do and go home and get my check. Okay. Next, you have to mention this author. I've been talking about her throughout this whole video. It is Terry McMillan, Waiting to Excel. I mean, everyone knows this book. Everyone should know this book. Everyone should read this book. It is such a fantastic story. The movie is fantastic. Uh, I mean, one of my favorites. Like, this is one of my favorite books, like a top 10. It's probably going to be on there. Top 10, top 20. It's going to be on there. I've read this book twice. I have a reading vlog of me reading this book. I wanted to read this book when I was in my 30s. And these are memorable characters. You're not going to forget Savannah, Robin, Bernadine, and Gloria. I mean, you just can't. My favorite personally, I like Savannah, but then reading it a second time, I still like Savannah, but who just entertained me was Robin, because some of the things that she does, it's just like, girl, are you that desperate? And yeah, she will frustrate you, but at the same time, she will entertain you. Now, Terry McMillan had a sequel to this book years later. It came out in like 2010 or something like that. Y'all, please don't read that book. I also did a reading vlog on that. I'll put it down below. Oh Lord, that was horrible. She was so bitter. And if y'all know, the tea, her husband that, she had married that was years younger than her, he turned out to be gay. And it looked like she was just so bitter from that, that when she wrote the sequel, Getting to Happy, she tore them characters up, and not in a good way. Y'all, again, I have a video on that. It does contain spoilers, so if you do want to read that, I would say don't watch that. But if you don't plan on reading that, and if you just want to know what happened with these women years later, because they would be in their 50s in the second book, as opposed to this book, they were in their early, about in the early to mid 30s. Next is Elin Harris, Invisible Life series. There's 3 books in the series. Elin Harris, he was ahead of his time because he talked about topics that were so taboo. Other authors were afraid to talk about them, especially men. He was openly gay, and he talked about characters that, some struggle with their sexuality, some were proud of, their sexuality. He also talked about transgender and the transgender community, and that was a no-no, you know what I mean? And the last book, abide by me. There was a very, very sad scene. Won't give it away, but it had to do with a person in that community, and the way that they treated them was just, it was heartbreaking. He hits you with topics like that, but he also entertains you. And the main character throughout the whole novel is a man named Raymond. In the first book, Raymond is, he's not sure about his sexuality. He still is involved with young women. He's in college, but he's had feeling for men, but he hasn't practiced. And you see, how he navigates that. And another thing, I always forget that Elin Harris is a man, because the way that he writes his women characters, I feel like a woman's writing them. I always say sometimes I don't like to read, or not read, but sometimes I feel some type of way when like a male writer writes a black woman, because a lot of times they just don't get it right. In my opinion, it's so many stereotypes and so many assumptions, and it's like, no, that's not what that's about. You know what I mean? But with him, he he knows how to write us. He knew how to write us. Yeah, really enjoyed this series. The last author I want to mention is also a male author, and that is the one and only Eric Jerome Dickey. This is my favorite book by him. This is Milk in My Coffee. Y'all, I have read a good amount of Eric Jerome Dickey books, and I have to say all of them are different. He's another one, just like Elin Harris, that he can write women characters. He does make us a little bit, I would say, overly dramatic, but he can write us, and he does it well, especially black women characters. One thing I love about Elin Harris and about Eric Jerome Dickey, they write black characters that are not just struggling. And like I always say, it's a breath of fresh air to have a book where, we not in the po house. We're not counting pennies. Just living our day-to-day life, going to work, having our families, just like that, as opposed to, again, being in the poorhouse. He does not write that. And to see characters that are well spoken, that are educated, that that are cultured. I love it so much, and he does that so well. Now, in this story, you have a man named Jordan Green. Jordan Green is pro-black. He like everything black, right? But then he started dating this little white girl, and his family questions him. his his professional life, they question him like, why are you with this white girl? Why are you toting around with this white girl? You just see those race relations. But with this book, it is a twist. And when you learn about it, oh, I wish I would have done a reading vlog on this, you guys, because I was outdone with his twist. He's another one where in his books, you're reading them and you're like, oh, okay. He'll throw a curveball at you and you like, where did that come from? But he knows how to write it in the story. You know what I mean? It's not just like a curveball, like, where did that come from? That don't even make sense. No, he knows how to intertwine it in the story where it makes sense and it just doesn't, throw you for a loop. He was a fantastic writer. I would say, though, his later writings, I think he was trying to keep up with the times, and he kind of gave you, when you have like an older man that be trying to be hip and young, some of them later books that was like that. Stick to the older books, y'all. If y'all gonna read Eric Jerome Dickey, I'm just saying, when you first read him, read his old stuff, read his old, things in his catalog. Then if you want to still, pursue his works, you can obviously read the new ones, but don't start with the new ones. Don't start with the new ones. Start with the old ones. So yeah, guys, that is it when it comes to this video. Some of my favorite 90 authors. If you like sister girl type of books, the friendships, the multi-generation, you're probably gonna like books in the 90s, especially written by black women, because that was the element. Yeah, guys, that's all I have for this video, and I'll be back with more black books. Bye.